friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here today to talk about sunflowers again because I had a video that had come out where I was talking about various different things, and I was talking about how sunflowers are good for detoxifying the soil. And that then led to a lot of great questions that caused me to do a little more deeper research because they were good questions. And I wanted to approach this topic again to understand the safety of sunflowers and being able to eat them and compost them after you've been growing them. So these sunflowers, by the way, are not real. This is an entirely artificial display I've got going on here, so I know I can always have some nice flowers in my background. But currently, at the time that I'm shooting this video, I've got quite a number of sunflowers growing in my garden. My garden's about done, and the chickens are roaming free in there, but the sunflowers are out there, and most of them, I'm just giving them to the chickens this year, or even allowing the wild birds to eat what they want. So at any rate, because of the detoxifying properties of the sunflowers in soil, they are commonly used for a process that is called phytoremediation. And what that means, it's plant remedy of the soil. And so sunflowers are the most common ones that are used. There are other plants that are used. There are quite a few, such as mustard greens, in particular Chinese mustard or Indian mustard, for detoxifying soil. But in the process of my research, I learned that sunflowers were used to detoxify the soil after Chernobyl. And I thought this was quite interesting. So anyway, the questions were like, if you're growing sunflowers in your garden and you're growing them for their many multiple purposes, for the seeds, for the fact that they get tall and they're beautiful, they're pretty to look at, but because of that and their bright colors, they attract bees to the garden, and which is obviously a plus. But then the whole idea of them also pulling the heavy metals and other toxins from the soil in that process, that's just really cool, but also then leads to concerns. Well, then do the seeds become toxic? Is the plant safe then to compost, or can I use, because the flowers are also edible, can I still use the flowers? Well, my answer to this is it's really going to depend on the soil itself. If it's just in your garden, yes, I would say absolutely you can eat and also compost those sunflowers. But if, as in the case of Chernobyl and other situations where there's been radiation, chemical spills and whatnot, and sunflowers are used as a natural way to remedy that soil, a natural, economical, and eco-friendly way, then no, I wouldn't consume those. Those would be something that, yes, I would chop down and burn in that case, because you can't say just how much of those toxins are remaining in the sunflower. However, for your own personal use at home in your own garden, I would absolutely not be afraid of this, because it's more than just the sunflower pulling those heavy metals, pulling those toxins out of the soil, but also in breaking them down and making them virtually harmless. When you understand how these things are broken down within the plant, then you would realize that yes, in just average regular situations, they would be safe. And especially if you're just taking good care of your soil anyway, you're not using harmful pesticides and chemical fertilizers in your garden, it should be entirely safe to consume those sunflowers and their seeds. As a believer, I obviously believe in creation, but even if you were an evolutionist and you believe that, nature has just evolved itself to become better and better, we would have to have the belief that as sunflowers and other plants such as barley and more that can detoxify the soil, but also are meant to feed wildlife and ourselves, we would have to assume that these then are going to properly handle those chemicals so that those things are still safe. So phytoremediation, again, is the name of is what is called to use plants to detoxify the soil. I'm going to name just a couple of the different processes that plants use, such as sunflowers, to not only heal the soil, but get rid of these chemicals. And one of these is called rhizosphere biodegradation, which is where the plants take the toxins up into their tissues and then biotransform them, making them virtually harmless or neutralizing those toxins. That would mean then that if you just leave your sunflowers out there, the plants, or you chop them down and let them break down naturally in the soil, you have nothing to worry about. On top of the fact that when those biodegrade in the soil, that will further neutralize the toxins that are there. So no, you do not need to run out and burn the plants that you grow in your own garden. Unless it's maybe your first year, you're just taking over this property and you know somebody used a lot of chemical fertilizers and whatnot, I would say, yeah, in that first year, maybe go ahead and chop those down and burn them after you've grown them. Maybe have that be the first thing you grow. Maybe grow sunflowers and barley to help heal that soil, and Chinese mustard. So with that said, I'm not afraid to consume the plant, the seeds, or any other part of the plant, or allow it to compost in my garden. So I want to share this. So those of you who are not believers, just bear with me. But I believe that God not only created our bodies to be intelligent, but the plants to be intelligent. So if he created the plants to detoxify the soil, he's also going to make them, especially if it's those things that the birds and other wildlife and ourselves are going to eat, he's also going to make them work in such a way that these toxins are not going to end up in the seeds or other parts of the plant that we are going to consume. Thus, he made those plants to be able to take those toxins and convert them, just as I mentioned here. And there's other methods that plants use. You can do a little research for yourself. I'll go ahead and put a link or two in the description box down below if you'd like to learn more. So anyway, I hope you found this video interesting and also helpful, and maybe kind of curb some of the fears you may have at consuming any part of a sunflower, especially that which you grow in your own garden, especially when you know that generally speaking your soil is going to be pretty safe because it hasn't been exposed to radiation. Any thoughts, ideas you'd like to share, please put them in comments down below. And thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.